Welcome to the show, Wave On. I'm your host here, Misty Markham, the owner of Luna Moon SUP Yoga, and I'm in mystery van today, the paddleboard hauler, and podcast equipment. The Rode is powered by solar panels, so that means you can do more remote podcasting. And kind of excited about that. So I've done some on the road podcasts before, but not right from in mystery van. I have tried it before with a remote, or I guess you could call it like a voice recorder, something a little smaller than the Rode. But the Rode equipment is so nice because it has sounds and I can plug in 4 mics plus a phone call if I want to. And then, like I said, those banks have storage so you can do your own sounds and stuff like that. I should really honestly be utilizing it a whole lot more, but we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. I'm the business owner that probably bites off a lot. And what does that mean exactly? It's just that I take on so many things and probably topics and categories that are still so far out of my reach, meaning I have so much time to grow into them. And it's just because I want to be successful, I guess. So let's go ahead. Like I said, this is being powered by, we're going to see how this episode turns out, by the way. This is kind of a test. But I haven't even hit my 100 episode mark yet. So guess what? I have a lot of room to play. And I definitely want to talk about SUP. While we're in the van, I'm sitting on a paddleboard and I have one behind me. But really, one of the topics that I wanted to discuss is the differences between kayak and paddleboarding. Now, obvious reason, we could say one is a boat, one is a paddleboard, a stand-up surfboard looking vessel. Well, now we have these hybrids where you can put a kayak seat back on your paddleboard and it would act as like a sit on top kayak. Just like paddleboards, there's all kinds of different types of kayaks. There's sea kayaks, which can range from 14 to 18 feet long. A lot of times they're pretty narrow. They have a pointy nose to go through waves and large water. We currently have 2 of them, one of mine and one is Jeremy's. And we've done like Pictured Rock paddle on Lake Superior with those, and Lake Michigan. But Pictured Rocks is really cool. You get close to those to the wall with those sea kayaks. That's a whole nother actually discussion about kayaks in general and how doing big water, you shouldn't have just a Pelican, really shorty, small type of and the other biggest part, the differences between the two. A paddleboard, obviously you're standing up, but like I said, if you turn your vessel into a sit on top kayak and then put a blade on the other end of your paddle, now you've got a kayak paddle. It makes the paddleboard very versatile. There's still some differences though. You know, like we tried to do Lake Huron with the paddleboards and it is doable, but the weather was not the most favorable. If you were with us on that trip, you kind of know what I'm talking about as far as it being rocky, wind, and us still sitting on top of the water. So even that sit on top kayak would act the same way technically. Kayaks sit a little more into the water and you now are more level with the surface of water where waves and wind are not going to affect you as much. And if you have a sea kayak, it is definitely going to cut through the water much more effectively than a stand-up paddleboard. Doesn't mean the paddleboard's not capable. It just means you need a little bit more experience, a little more strength, and that's all there is to it. That's really it. Unless the water is really rough, then you might want to reconsider even going out, period. But I want to give out the simple differences between the kayak and stand-up paddleboard. Kayak, you're going to sit down in it a little bit, makes it a little more tippier, some of them anyways. Paddleboard is like easy on and off. Easy to sit back down on it, easy to get off. But I will say, here's a key point about water and weather, maybe even the temperature of the water. Kayak is going to be a little more favorable if the water is a little cooler and maybe you don't want to get wet. And you're going to sit down in it. Your legs are going to be covered. Your feet aren't going to be touching the water. And you can breeze along if there's a little bit of wind that pops up. It is not going to be as favorable on that topic because you're probably going to get wet. Your seat might get wet because even if you're sitting, right, you still can get water on top of the paddleboard. and now there's nowhere for the water to go. So you might get wet, you might get cool. If it is now, like right now, we're into the more of the fall season. So that's some simple direction. I'll dive in just a little bit deeper as far as body mechanics and muscles you might be using one over the other. So when I change up between a paddleboard and a kayak, the paddleboard, I'm using more of my body. I am using my core and my shoulders and my legs and my feet. And in the kayak, I feel like directionally goes right to my center, my core. I'm really using my core muscles. I've got double blades. So I'm kind of even rotating my body just a little bit. I'm going through the motion. And that's some simple differences that can be done as far as like you really pushing the core. So because you want to use your core, you want to use less shoulders. Even in paddleboarding, it is a lot of arm work, but if you use the core, if you've ever watched paddleboard racers, even they are really using core. They've got a stance where they never come fully back up to standing, because they're racing and they want the paddle in the water faster, more momentum. They're racing other paddleboarders, so they want that momentum. And for us casually doing it, we're still using all of our muscle groups from the feet, starting with the feet, rooting through the 4 points of the feet. You'll hear me say that often, rooting through the 4 points of the feet, connection to the board, and then a subtle bend in your knees, and then stand up tall, but really dig in the blade to the nose of the board. Really dig in. So you're almost like going sideways. The top hand, the one that's on the T-grip, is going to go up high. And it's almost like you're going to dip down and come back up as the paddle comes to you. Like you're really, almost like you're trying to scoop or drag the paddle into the water, using the resistance of the water to propel the board forward. Whereas kayak, you've got 2 blades. So again, going back, talking about weather, you got an advantage with 2 blades. And with that advantage, you might glide along a little faster if you're in wind or you have any waves, any resistance coming at you. It makes it harder on a paddleboard. Even if you are kneeling, especially big water like we experienced with our attempt to paddle out to Turnip Rock, which is Lake Huron. It's on the thumb side of the state of Michigan. That became difficult for some people because we had wind at our back. So yes, it's pushing us, but to come back, to turn around and come back, that's when it becomes a little difficult. So again, back to your level of experience and how strong are you? How many times have you paddleboarded over the summer? We picked this trip to be in August, hoping that most would get all the experience that they would need and become strong enough to do it. So we'll put it back on the bucket list for next year. It was a fun trip. And back to my topic on kayak versus stand-up paddle. Kayaks in general, like I said, the bigger they become, the more stable they are. The smaller, the more narrow, more tippy. And I did witness that. Funny story. That the person who was at the beach trying to get in this kayak, which was just a rental. It's not theirs. They don't own it. And so they've never used it before, but I guess you could say it almost looked like it was a child's kayak. But what was funny about it is he started to tip from one side to the other and it started to fill with water. So once the cockpit starts to fill with water, you're going to have a hard time or possibly even sink. So he didn't really leave very far because it wasn't going to allow him to. It started to fill with water. He started to go side to side. He knew he wasn't going to make it. So he was like, all right, I'm done with this. This isn't going to work for me. I'm either too big for it or yeah. So paddleboard in that case, hey, comes in really handy. Just a small inland lake leaving from the beach, just gets on the paddleboard. You can still sit on a paddleboard without a kayak seat back. The kayak seat back just makes it more ergonomical. And when you attach on that second blade, it's literally like you are a sit on top kayak. Not the ones where you sit down in with the feet, obviously inside the cockpit, but this is different where you have some advantages to play. So again, gear, environment, experience, all of those play into the hands of how your outcome is going to come when you're out on the water. And you kind of want to be able to gauge correctly for your experience and what your plans are and what you want to do. Now, in our fleet, I do have an inflatable kayak, which is kind of unique. I call it still a sit-on-top paddleboard. Just has the ballasts around the side, so it makes it even more stable. We've nicknamed it the lifeboat, the party boat, just because it has so much room. It's actually a 2-person kayak, but the bottom floor is sort of like a kayak, or I'm sorry, a paddleboard, the foam top. So the bottom all inflates, and then the sides inflate. So it's actually it inflates faster than a paddleboard, just because it doesn't take as much PSI for the floor or the sides to inflate. And some people who just can't quite get the paddleboard love the inflatable kayak. And I think it is also a lot of fun to have out on the water. I offer it for classes. I offer it for people who might have a disability or just an injury of some kind and still want to come out and paddle with their group. So it is on my website. It is available for a paddle upgrade in your experience. And so is the kayak seat backs as well. They put those in the fleet, like I said, for the advantage of having different body types, different ages. I mean, honestly, this is a ageless experience, opportunity to be out on the water. I mean, I've had as young as probably 7 years old all the way up to well into their 70s. A lot of age group and opportunity for people to be able to join, and I love that. I do have a quick clip of me on the paddleboard with the seat back and what that sort of looks like, and if you decide to use it versus paddleboard. And like I said, weather may help you make that decision. If you get out there and you're like, oh, it's just too windy, or I'm tired, I want to sit. This is like the best thing that you could possibly have. So with that said, I'm going to provide a link in the show notes for a YouTube clip if you want to see the kayak seat back on the paddleboard, how it even attaches onto the paddleboard. There's basically 4D rings for it to attach. I have played with some other paddleboards and manipulating them to become one of those type of experiences. I think that the best thing is the versatility out of it, obviously, and just the fun aspect, but definitely using your core more than I feel it. Me personally, I feel it more in my core when I'm kayaking versus my paddleboard, but doesn't mean that I'm not using my core. It just means that I think the focus is the core. So I'd love to hear your feedback as well. What's your experience and what is your favorite thing to do? Most people I already know, but I still like to hear about your experience. And anyway, we're just trying something new. I have fresh lotion bars and lip balms on the website as well. So if you want to go check that out on the website, there's a little sale on the lip balms going on right now. We're at the pool this weekend. We've already had one pool class a couple weeks ago. So we're building behind the scenes as well. Retreats, scoping out destination paddles, and if you have any feedback on that as well or any requests, please feel free, let us know. I've also had some potential guests, reach out to me for the podcast, Wave On. Now, sometimes I get a little skeptical on that just because when they reach out to me, I'm like, who is this? And is it a bot? Is it AI? I'm not really sure. I've never heard of this person. And 2 of them actually sound pretty legit. So that is also something different for the podcast. One is about water that we drink, whether it treated, non-treated. Sounds like someone who has a lot of knowledge about that. And I may have them on. I may try that. It's going to be something new. And if you have any feedback on that as well, please feel free. Or if you even have a guest to suggest, I'd like that as well. As much as I love people reaching out, I'm just not sure who's real and what's real anymore. Anyway, just another food for thought on that. And I think I'm going to keep this episode pretty short and sweet. Again, it's just about the kayak versus the paddleboard. I'm going to provide my affiliate link to iRocker because they actually have the setups for those versatile options of turning your paddleboard into a kayak with the dual paddle and seat back, and along with a lot of other accessories. So they've got some great things and some new product that I'm enjoying seeing them unroll. And again, I'll put the affiliate link if you want to go to lunamoonsupyoga.com. That's where you would see my schedule, where I'll be, things that are happening, and any major updates. So thanks for tuning in. Please hit subscribe, like, follow, check out our YouTube channel as well, Luna Moon Sup, and I hope to see you out on the water soon.